Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack for Business podcast.
Question of the audience. Why does your home look nice, but still not feel calm, comfortable, or truly livable? That's exactly what our guest will unpack, no pun intended, in this episode. She'll share how thoughtful, space-smart design can transform the way you live and work at home, so your space finally supports your well-being instead of draining it. If you're ready to create a home that feels as good as it looks, stay with us and listen to the next few steps on how to get there. Which leads us to our guest, Joanne Grigoriev from Just Lean Back. She is the heart behind Just Lean Back, which brings an artist's eye to everyday living. A retired classical flutist, she has a natural instinct for harmony, balance, and design that truly works for real people in real homes. Inspired by her husband, Nikita, the pioneer who earned the first U.S. patent in convertible furniture, Joanne developed a deep appreciation for functional beauty that just doesn't look good but genuinely supports how we live. Through Just Lean Back, she champions sustainable, space-saving furniture that helps people create calm, comfortable, and stylish spaces. Her work invites others to enjoy the art of living well, where thoughtful design quietly elevates daily life. And when summer arrives, you'll often find Joanne out in the water, sailing her laser with the same joy she brings to her craft. Joanne, it's an absolute pleasure having you here. Welcome. You have a favorite quote or saying, ma'am?
Yes, I do. And thank you for having me here today, gentlemen. My favorite quote is, "The good design is born in the pursuit of the quintessential solution to clearly perceived and sharply defined user needs." And that is from my husband, Nikita Grigoriev.
Wow, excellent. So, flutist, furniture. There's a bit of a span there. You know, one is pushing out air, and the other one's pushing out places to put things on, including yourself. How do you roll that through? How do you come into that space?
You know, life is full of curves and twists and opportunities and doorways that open, and I will always open the door and take a peek. First of all, flutist for sure was a calling. It was my talent since a little girl, and I loved it. And I'll tell you what they have, what playing the flute and maybe an entrepreneurship, whichever space you're in, it's about freedom. When I'm playing my flute, I feel like I'm soaring like an eagle. I feel free. And I think entrepreneurs, we have that same desire to be free from the mold, free from constraints, and make our own decisions and go for it. So, how did furniture come into it? It really literally came in through my husband's creativity. I recognized it even before he did. And what was in our living room created became a business because we recognized it as something that could be a business.
What was he doing before he started the furniture piece?
He was flying around the world delivering aircraft. He's a pilot and used to be a tech rep, representing de Havilland, right? We were Toronto, yeah, around the world and getting planes that were, stuck on the ground and nobody could figure it out. But he would come along and study it, and figure it out, and put it back up in the air.
So, the first U.S. patent on convertible furniture. And I'm thinking there's a Swedish firm that's out there, and is that even before the Swedish firm kicked in, or is this just the first U.S. patent from a U.S. citizen?
So it's a It was that patent was issued. Yeah, you're right. In America, we had just moved to America when the patent came through. So you're talking about IKEA, correct?
Yeah.
Back in that day, IKEA was like quality. It was exciting. It was about design, and so, but with time, that changed to meet. They lowered their standards, so which is something we don't want to do ever. So that they were players in the field, very exciting, but not necessarily in the futon world. We know all the old timers, all the original designers. My husband was the first one to file for a patent. Hello, that was me,
So,
and it has served us so well since then. But yeah, IKEA was around. But interestingly enough, at one time we called our business Nikita Engineering Art, and that the acronym was NIKEA. And it just became too confusing. It's like, "You're with IKEA?" So we changed it.
In my deep, dark, distant past, I've actually sold futons.
Love you.
As you may know, Kingston is a university town. Everyone,
Sure.
all these 20-somethings came in to buy their first futon, and it was fascinating.
Yep. Such fond memories of Kingston, not so much because of futons, but because of my flute. I was with the National Youth Orchestra, right? The elite players, the young players were chosen, we auditioned, etc. And then in the summer, we would be in Kingston at the university, stationed there and, training, performing, rehearsing, and then we would do a small tour. So that's my fond, fond memory. And, it's along the river. So every day back then, there was a windsurfer that would go out on the river in a black wetsuit and just like that was before they had harnesses and everything. And he would just go up and down at high speed for hours. And I was just awestruck. Would go for walks to the shore, and, I think that's where I got hooked sailing.
Being an artist from the sound side to an
Yeah.
artist who's creating something that is and your husband doing the design,
Mhm.
is there a relationship between having that artful side and the appearance? Like your husband flies planes, right? And so everything's about form and function. Planes don't look like bricks when they're flying through the air. Hopefully, hey, they might be the odd one, but it's not. Not everybody buys that one. Is there some sort of like design? It almost sounds like if you think back, let's say the Bauhaus, there's certain design arts. Do you fall in a certain design pattern, and does the rich background you're coming from the sound and aircraft design also play a role into that whole making the shapes for the aesthetic?
That's a really, really good question, and I think what you're dialing into is, like, the person, like, the individual, really, right? And so there's influences, but I think we allow ourselves to be influenced by that which we accept and that which comes from us. And so I would have to say yes, but I think it's different expressions of the person's talent. And then that starts compounding and we gain experience. So my husband's very, very talented in design. There's in creativity. There's no doubt about that. And the aircraft part of it, like seeing things with that, like aerodynamics and then mechanisms and all of that engineering, I think you're quite astute in saying that there was an influence and still is an influence on that. I mean, when you think about having that big, like you say, that all that machinery, that huge thing flying, thinking and you're an engineer and you're thinking in terms of principles and concepts, you're stretching that whole area and that eventually will get applied, I think, influence any other designs that you come out with or put attend to, like apply yourself to is what I meant really. Like given a problem, how do we best approach it? And all of that experience and having studied aircraft and even designed for aircraft and then flown the aircraft and sometimes pushing the envelope is that plays in, I think, to every moment of our life then, including our designs.
So, one of the best ways to get to good design is bad design. How many people did you maim in the earlier process?
I mean, that is so astute. Like a good design is a solution to bad design. And as far as the futon design, so the Justine, what now we call it Justine back. So we are distinguishing ourselves from the futon because of exactly like, it's just for students and then they throw it out on the curb when their semester's over. So we wanted to make up that distinction. But it's, I call it futon frame frustration that we have if I'm talking about futons, it's frustrating, right? They're wobbly, they fall apart, the arms flay out, the lot keeps sliding, the middle is always shaking. This is a completely different approach to converting a sofa into a stable bed. And it's using just very, very simple geometry, but finely tuned geometry. And I think that's what Bernie's referring to is like, how does everything play in to coming up with a quintessential design? And absolutely, Wayne, it's a Like you first you see problems, and the futon frames are riddled with problems. Like some of them you had to pull pegs out, right? And then they lie flat and they're like about the height of your ankle. So only students can use it. No grown-ups, you know what I'm saying? Lots of redundancies in the design. And aircraft that has fewer redundancies, like one part can do many things, is what I mean, instead of a lot of tacked on stuff, makes the aircraft heavy, etc., like that. When you have something quintessential, one thing that does really everything, just about everything, because it's a quintessential solution, then you come to the essence of simplicity, and that usually solves problems.
So some people look at nature, they'll see things, and they'll take the elements of nature, like the Fibonacci design. You'll see that in seashells. Is there some sort of element that you incorporate from natural design that you're picking up from nature that's around you?
Wow, that is a really, really good question, a deep question. So, like, I have friends down in the Catskill Mountains, and they make beautiful tables from enormous trees, and they look supernatural. Not supernatural, ultra
Natural.
natural. They look natural, not supernatural. And in fact, that's how my husband, my husband, with just big cedar blocks, and then like years later it became very fashionable. So I have to say that what we're doing now is it's not like that, but when we observe nature, like how do the nutrients go up the trees so high? How does a bumblebee fly? When we're observing these phenomena, or how do the birds know how to fly? That kind of thing. Then I think there is a desire to look for solutions that can mirror that, not necessarily look like it, like a beautiful big table made from a trunk, sliced nice and flat and then finished. And so it's more principles of function, I would say, that influence our design, because we are function focused. So, and that's where, ergonomics are very, very important for us. We're building for the human body. So in that way, if you want to extend that to nature, it's not just, something you see on a patio at a hotel or something with a low back, straight seat, and you're uncomfortable really quickly. It may end up with a backache. With our furniture, it's designed for the human body to support it as it needs to be. In that way, it's inspired by nature, it's inspired by life, and then looking for that best solution to provide a product or piece of furniture that serves in that way. So we use only hardwood and natural finishes. So in that way, you're getting 100% solid hardwood. So we're using the natural products, but not to stay in its like primal look. It's being engineered into something very practical, very usable, and very comfortable user.
So I won't even mention the $99 futons frames I sold.
So you can mention them. I don't think you did. Did you?
Actually, I do have a serious question. We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
there's a word that comes up a great deal called pivot. And you guys have a story to tell. I find there are three reasons people pivot. One is
Okay.
they can't stand the bureaucracy and politics anymore and they leave corporate. Done. The other one is I desperately need $500 more a month. My kids need piano lessons. And then the third reason is I have a calling, whether it's design, furniture, or whatever. Which one of those or combination of those three were you?
So me reference to this is a combination of myself and my husband. So we've been doing Just Lean Back and all its iterations there. I'm just putting together. So his part of it was aviation slumped. Like it was exciting, it was fun, it was profitable, and then there was a big time slump. So it's like, well, what do you do? You're not traveling around the world flying planes and you love wood. And so you start to look inside. It's like, well, what can I do? What do I like? Just like you said, it's coming from within. So that's how my husband got involved or started with furniture. And I say at first it was just exactly what Bernie was asking about, much more like natural and natural to the setting from where the wood came from. For me, I grew up, I have never known corporate, even as a parents that were corporate. I grew up in 100% entrepreneurial home. Self made man for my father, and the whole family was involved. We loved it, and we knew the ups and downs and the push, and then the slow time when we could whatever go to Europe or go to the cottage. And then it's like you're just helping with the business now when it was the really intense times. So I understood that. That's the only thing I ever knew was self-accountability. And so I have two sisters, and all of us have our own businesses, never even considered corporate, never. So it was a natural flow. My husband, 100% also, he's not going to, he's unemployable. If you have a design, you have a challenge, let's hear it. I'll let you know if I can come up with a solution, right? It's like that. So the pivot, though, for us, we did have pivots within the furniture business, and it was more the external circumstances. So incomes just about stopped when America, how do I phrase this? Cheap China metal. It was made very easy for cheap China metal futon frames and stuff to come into America, and Americans started gobbling it up, right? Because it was a very, very low price. So that put just about everybody in small manufacturing. And so I'll get to that later, but small manufacturing, it put them out, just about put them out. So the pivot was, well, do we cave? Do we give in? Do we just like throw in the towel? Or do we, you just feel like you've been punched and everything's been taken out of you after working so hard because your own business is your own baby and you invested. Because for us entrepreneurs, we're putting our heart and soul into it. It's not just a job. It's never just a job. We were hit too, and for a little while, it was like we're just you're just staggering and you're wondering what to do and what should we do. And then we decided to pivot from futons to something for niche market, a real niche market, high quality, unique design. We redesigned it so that it could be produced in a small shop with a small footprint, very, very efficiently. So all of those parameters and the design itself became lighter, easier to assemble, and even more easier to use. Covered everything that the market could possibly sustain and accept. And then we started targeting more niche markets. And we weren't afraid to charge much more. And we drew that distinction. So, we saw the rise of Birkenstocks, like sandals that cost a lot of money, or, specialty organic food shops. It's like, well, that's food, it's like the apples like cost twice as much. So we saw that there was a desire among the people, a market gap for quality again. People are getting tired of throwing, you know, cheap plastic and cheap China metal into their landfills here in America. And there was a demographic waking up. That was our pivot within Just Lean Back.
I want to touch on the manufacturing piece, and you already kind of talked about it. Like you've built a design so it doesn't require not heavy resource. You get a prototype, and so this is going to be 2 or 3 questions wrapped in this query here. How often do you do a prototype, or how many times do you do an iteration of a given product? 2, woodworking. Every once in a while, I'll listen to someone talk about wood, and then they explain things. The direction of the grain, and then if you're buttressing it up against another piece of wood, the grain has to go the opposite. There are a whole bunch of nuances, and then even the finishing of it, right? And then if you have a block of wood, or you have are you bending it, using steam, there's a whole series of things. And then the finishes, right? So what's the life cycle like? Here's my lumber, here's some stuffing, here's some fabric for the cloth portion. How long does it take from got it here from raw to finished? And distribution. How do you move it around? I gave you about 4 hours worth of questions right there, but just if you want to do a quick sum check on some of them.
And those questions actually involve several pivots. Situations change in the world. We had big COVID, that changed. We made big changes during that time. And what the change was simplicity. We can't offer every single beautiful, we're not offering any more finishes. We used to have like espresso and white and black, and then like for fruit wood and dark walnut, and we had 4 woods. Now we have 1 wood, finished or unfinished, a limited line of fabric. So that's what how we pivoted. But it's interesting. That's a really good question. For the frame, you're like, hang on, but we have, because of the efficiency, like once the wood is in the shop, okay, it's 1 man hour. Now, that's because of hyper efficiency. It's not just one person doing it, but if you calculate all of the steps, 1 man for finished product. That's unfinished. Then finished takes a bit more time, but we have that. That's an example. That's the efficiency part of production, really honed in and still yet simple. Now, some of the other questions.
Well, how long does it take you to make one?
Iterations. The iteration we have currently is, I don't want to say the word perfect, but it is good. It's it can't get, especially the freedom frame, the armless one. When you get into arms, then you get into styling, right? But the freedom frame, the principal structure, so the freedom frame, meaning it's the support is recessed, and so you have a free perimeter. That's why we call it that. You have a free perimeter in the sofa, and then you have a free perimeter in the bed. That is like the quintessential. Everything is pared down to the quintessential essence of what you need. When you get into having a piece with arms and wraparound boards and stuff, that's when you get into styling, and you can then it's a matter of the iterations would be, we should make the arm top wider, looks better. Well, then how do you have the structure? Then it's like pressure, whatever it's called. My husband's better. Weight loads and pressure, and then when it's converting, how stable will it be and how vulnerable will it be, etc. But I can tell you, as far as iterations, we have something when we are coming up with a new design, fundamental design, or even let's say a new iteration of what we have. One thing that could possibly happen in the future is, I don't know about why, but maybe Americans, they're either getting older or they're getting creakier. And so they want the piece a little higher. Okay, can it be higher? It's like, well, we're telling you, it's at normal sofa height. Well, can you put it higher anyway? And that would be an engineering, what we call prototype blues we'd have to go through. It's like we have the idea, but now we got to come up with the exact components and how they're going to reconfigure and all of that. So that would be a reiteration. Would take time. It takes time. It's like composing or something, or writing a book. It's without AI. Coming from within you have all these thoughts and then you've got to work through it. And that's the same with, with an iteration. It's like almost like a new design, and it can take days. It can take weeks. You're lucky if it just takes hours.
No, it's perfect. I just, because you're handling the full spectrum from high, there's raw material or design, prototype it. Now I'm going to manufacture it. So you're going to tweak things so you can go boom, boom, boom. There's a recipe, and it's effective use of man hours or woman hours or labor and
Yep.
product, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep,
you're off to the
materials.
races. Distribution. So like, do they come to you? Do they find it in your local furniture store, or is it especially niche retailers for you? Like, how do you handle the distribution piece?
Good question. We used to, back in the day, we used to service a lot of the futon stores. We had like 100 accounts, right? And so it was a quality piece. And that's what we were doing. And then the survivors came up for air, redesign themselves, and we did that. And serving volume was no longer priority. Big numbers was no longer a priority. Niche market became the goal. We had showrooms for a while. That was great. COVID stopped that. And so now the other final I don't know if it's the final pivot, but at this stage, we're just serving online. We're, direct to the consumer. And we have some very good, like old timer accounts that have very high quality. One's Futon Shop in California, another one, Bedworks in Cambridge, Mass. We have customers like that will only carry quality. And those are who we serve, I would say, naturally. Fly. Just, huh?
Do you use influencers to every once in a while, I come downstairs and all of a sudden my wife is watching, "Hi, I'm ripping apart this house," or "I'm looking to buy this house," and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, 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 that's fun. That's fun." But at the same time, well, if you're looking to redo a house, right, then you're getting the design inspirations, you get a sense of where things are going. Do you find to help promote the product? So if A, you gotta know about it, right? But B,
Yep.
also someone's gotta say, "Well, why is this better than that?" Well, this one's coming from overseas or it's made from materials from overseas, and yeah, it has a lifespan of maybe 3 years or less, depending on who's using it. Versus, let's say, showrooms, for example, right? Or showrooms and or higher end stores where, it's that is designed to last a long time. It's almost an
Mhm.
heirloom piece.
Heirloom quality. Yep.
So
Wonderful.
do you use influencers then to help promote this?
That's a wonderful question. I have started working with one. So she's helping with Instagram. And we have a project for the future where we will be supplying her with our furniture for glamping domes that she will be creating retreats with. So that is a step in that direction. And I think you're quite right. That is absolutely the way to go in this day and age. And it's something that can be done on the internet, really. So we're stepping into that world.
I just imagine, speaking of glamping, I just imagine a 747 where all the seats were futons. I don't know if it works, but I
Literally imagine that too. I thought our design's perfect for just lean back and go to sleep, in first class. The principal design of it.
I do have a serious question that you've actually worked through and maybe even uncovered. Some of our clients, some of our guests are artisans, and the
Right? Yeah.
problem is that almost guarantees they can't scale.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you were going to spitball and there was licensing and franchising and selling to a bigger company who had distribution or
Mhm.
bringing in children, how do you see artisans or growing their business when it was based on a craft?
Yeah. Okay. Two things here. Well, first of all, I've done a lot of artisan shows and we would sell a lot. Uh, because the reason, I believe for all of those shows, at least the ones I was participating in, it had to be handcrafted. Right? Had to be handcrafted. I think some things are scalable and some things aren't necessarily scalable. If you're talking, I mean, I know a jeweler, she's scaling. It's the ability to scale, to make volume. And that's kind of diminishes the artisan quality, right? The artisan mystique about it, the artisan appeal. So I'm not sure that because we can buy something, from Walmart that looks beautiful, but we know it wasn't made with love and the beautiful materials and the raw materials, etc. So slightly different. We can fall into the two categories, but for us, scaling is how it was designed from the very beginning. And that brings me back to what Bernie was asking about, like the production. The production is as much a design as the product, the design itself. It's unless you're thinking in that way and have, let's say, skills, we all have different skills, and you have that skill, you have that ability to create a system. Everything comes down to systems. You create a system that will allow for minimal like technology for maximum like results. And so you're able to scale and still keep it simple. That I think is a skill. And I don't think most artisans think like that or have that skill. So they would have to hire somebody. So if you're making little jewelry things and painting them, hand painting them and things, I think immediately, okay, well, because we did go to China, and we looked at when we look, because when you're knocked out, then you think, okay, well, how do we figure this out? What are the doors that can open? And going to China and having it made in China, we considered that, and we absolutely said no. People were abused. We would have to just about live there to manage and educate, and then it would be riddled with problems anyway, and then you're dealing with the import. We didn't want to deal with that. A lot of our colleagues, or several of our colleagues, did go that route, but we didn't want to deal with that. So you make those choices. But when I'm thinking of fine made jewelry, I don't want it to be mass produced from China. If I'm going to buy it from somebody face to face, like when I'm buying meat from the local farmer, I look them in the eye and I ask them, is this like chemical free meat? Am I eating something good for myself? And they say, yes, I trust that. And I want the same thing when I'm shopping with artists. I want that handmade, unique, one of a kind quality. That's what I want from artisans. Our business model was never that from the beginning. It was to be it was to be scaled. That's how it was designed.
So if you're to sit back and look at the journey you've gone through, so there's been the career shift, there's been the pivot within the business itself, and so forth. What 2 or 3 elements would you want to relay to somebody if they're about to start their own business and they're, let's say, they're going to focus on niche? Maybe they can't compete with the large box store because they just literally there's 100,000 copies of product X, and it's a certain price point, and the only way you can achieve that price point is through mass volume. Right. And you can't do it, but you've got something that people do want. What 3 kind of key points would you want to relate to people and share it with them to say, look, if you're starting this venture, this is what you got to know.
Okay, thank you. This is like to set the platform or set the concept. Number one, don't be envious of Amazon or the big box stores. Don't go there. Own your space, own your brilliance, and create the niche. Be confident in it. And when you're communicating, know what you solve. Know what you're giving the person, what the results for them will be, and focus on that. Because what you have, there are people that will love what you have, and it's your job to convey that. And so how do you make yourself visible? Well, there's platforms like Etsy is a wonderful one. Etsy, there's other platforms like that. Learn about what works, funnels and things like that. You got to be working in the paradigm of communication that we live in. Distinguish yourself. Always talk about what it's giving, what it's the problem that it's solving for the person looking. It could be something very unique, very special. And there's a lot of don'ts here. Don't price it according to, if you're afraid to price things because of your own maybe background or upbringing, whatever, don't do that. Understand that there is someone at every price point that you can serve. And think of them, not of yourself. And so those make it easy to buy. And when they're ready, make it easy and serve them. Love on them. Follow. Be there. I mean, I have a conversation with almost every, not the stores necessarily, but with every individual buyer, direct buyer. I have conversations with them.
You also
Of their
share
home. Yeah.
Do you also share a story of the origin story of the furniture, or this one is, if it's the futon or versus the one, because I'm looking in the background behind you right now, right? And there's different formats, right? There's one where multiple people, or maybe it's the lover's nook type thing. Do you ever tell a story that goes with it, going, "This was inspired by my cat," now it curled in my lap. I mean, I'm just picking something random out of the air, but do you also embed that as part of the pitch? Or you just
Yeah.
talk about your husband and the aircraft and going, listen, this can fly too. You just have to pretend to
Yeah.
her.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we all want to be comfortable in our homes. And we're at a time in life where we're the word overwhelm is legit because we're bombarded with new stuff and old stuff and stuff that's good, stuff that's bad, stuff that's like so much stuff. And what I like to do is just create a calm space and show that one thing, what if one thing or one piece could solve a few problems for you? So you have your home and it opens up. There's a screen and porch on the back, opens up to a brook, and then beyond that is a little bit of a forested area, and you love being on your porch. You would even love sleeping there in the summer, and you love being there with your children, but it's a small area, right? How do you, and I mean, when the kids are gone in school, you like to bring your computer out there with a cup of coffee and get a few emails sent out. So that one space that like I think most of us love being on our porch. And I show them that our furniture can serve all of that with just a few pieces, so simply, so easily, so comfortably, so safely, and they can choose the fabric. It that's what I try to bring is create the vision for them.
Do you have a high-end porchware line?
Well, that's where we niche, the outdoor convertible sofas, sofa beds for your porch.
Very cool. So we've mentioned online. We're meeting on
Uh-huh.
Zoom. So here's a question. Where's your target market and how do we get a hold of you? And who are we if we want to talk to you?
Well, beautiful. Well, you can go to our website, justleanback.com, and you have questions, just, chat with me or click on the email. I'll be the one responding. So you can ask the questions there. The phone number is everywhere. I have this nook and it's underneath the staircase and I love it there because there's a little window, but I don't want my chair to be stuck there. I was like, oh, you need a freedom chair. It's this size, it'll roll. You can roll it out, you can lean it back, you can put your feet up on the ottoman, and you have a bed, a chair, a bench, everything.
You get
So
it in other countries?
no, we have, we've had people, but when it comes down to the shipping, we haven't cracked that code, or that problem, or we haven't addressed that.
Get your
Or
husband to fly them. Just have him bring them.
exactly, right?
I was going to say that. Sorry.
He could. Yeah, our plane is much too small.
I just imagine a Cessna with this big couch behind it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, he doesn't have as a Mooney, but anyway, that's a funny question. So right now it's nationwide, America. If somebody really, really wants to import it to Europe or something, would be a conversation, and there would have to be decisions and movement and action taken from the end buyer too. So we're not opposed to it. Yeah.
Joanne, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. It's really cool to hear about someone who is building a product, bringing it to market, niche, enjoys it, and there's so many components that come into it that are just a natural fit. It's almost like a custom suit story, right? And you found your custom suit and you found your marketplace. I'd also like to thank my co-host Wayne Pratt and you, the Knack for Business listeners. This just tells you, it can give you an inspiration as to how things can come together. If you happen to be in the continental U.S. and you're looking for that, I want to be comfortable on the back porch or in the what do you call that? The summer porch where it's kind of closed in, because up here in Canada, the mosquitoes will come after you, and right after the deer flies and horse flies and then the other monstrous little beasts that fly in the air. But anyhow, if you're looking for that comfortable resting spot where you can sit back and just relax, reach out to Joanne.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVISIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space, then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You, Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.